Hey, this is Victor Ortiz, and in this video today, we're going to be talking about social awareness. Now, in the last video on this series, we talked about the 4 pillars of emotional intelligence. In the last videos, we went over part 1, which was learning how to be self-aware and recognizing what self-awareness looks like, what it is. The second video we made, we talked about self-management. So using that awareness of ourself and our own emotions and our behaviors and thoughts, what to do next with that. Now in this video, this is part 3 of the series, and we're going to be talking about what is social awareness. Okay. Now, social awareness is our ability to recognize other people's emotions and see things from their own perspective. Okay. This means listening out to other people's concerns. This means tuning into some of their feelings, their emotions, maybe reading some of their body language, and trying to get a full understanding of what's going on within them so that appropriate relationship can be established and both of you guys can meet your needs. Okay? So first, starting this video, I want to talk about the spectrum of what social awareness is and try to place this spectrum within your own mind so you can learn what is social awareness and what isn't social awareness. Now, on the left end, the beginning of social awareness, at the beginning of, this spectrum, these are the people, or this is a place and time where you're someone who's completely disattached from other people's emotions, and you're completely disattached from, their perspectives or their concerns, and you're not able to fully understand what's going on within them because you're too immersed within what's going on within you. So it's not even in your comprehension to understand when your partner is upset or angry or feeling sad or when they're feeling happy. It's not within you to recognize when's the right time to communicate, with this person, and when's not the appropriate time. Okay. Now, this is important to recognize because when you're at that end of the spectrum, you're not going to be as successful as you would be in your relationships or, in your workplace or being a leader or just in any group environments because you're not tuning into other people. Okay. Now, the right end of the spectrum, all the way across, this is someone who's not really even tuning into the other person, but this is someone who's just judging people and trying, to play a monologue in their head of, trying to judge and project on what the other person is thinking or feeling and what they're going to say next. Okay? So you don't want to be completely disattached, but you also don't want to judge and project on other people and try to mind read them, okay? Now, social awareness is being in the middle, right? This means practicing tuning into people in a healthy manner. So in this video, we're going to go over 3 ways to practice this social awareness. So in this video, we're going to go over ways to practice this social awareness and to have better relationships with other people. Now, the first way to practice social awareness is to practice tuning into other people by using active listening, right? Active listening means using our minds to quiet some of our mind chatter going on. And this means being able to tune into other people's concerns, their feelings, their emotions, and some of their perspectives. Now, in our relationship, this could look different from what it looks like when we practice active listening in the workplace. In our own relationship, let's say we have a spouse who we live with, right? You come back home and your spouse is in the living room, in the kitchen, and they're upset. Now, if we're practicing social awareness, we'll be able to tune in and recognize that our spouse is upset. This means we communicate with them and we practice listening to some of their concerns and their perspectives. When we practice active listening into tuning into our partner, we'll recognize that they were upset because we left dishes in the sink the night before or this morning before we went out to do our errands or to do our work. We're able to recognize that when we practice active listening, you might realize that, oh, there's someone who, is very, very diligent and needs to be in a clean space, needs to be in a clean environment, so they like to keep the place clean. This means that they didn't appreciate the fact that you left your dishes in the sink and you didn't wash it and you kept the kitchen dirty, or you didn't clean up the house after you're moving things around. So when you can tune into other people and listen to some of their concerns and their emotions, you'll be able to recognize, what they appreciate and some of the things that they don't appreciate. So you guys have a more harmonic relationship. Now in the workplace, if you're practicing active listening, this means still listening to your coworkers or your customers or your clients' perspectives, feelings, concerns, right? Let's say you're someone who maybe is a real estate agent and, they're expressing their feelings and you notice that they're kind of feeling fearful, but also excited because they really want to, purchase a certain property, yet, they're feeling nervous or fearful that they won't have the funds or they don't know, the right way to do it, right? This also might mean that when you're in a group project with your coworkers and your supervisors and you guys are in a meeting or in a huddle, you'll be able to listen out to some other people's concerns, right? Maybe you'll recognize that someone has a concern that there's certain things we need to be doing from now on to meet our deadline. So when we practice active listening and our intimate relationships with our spouse or with our friends or our family members and listening to other people's feelings and concerns at work, what you'll notice is we'll be able to use that to our advantage and adjust our decision making and our behavior accordingly. And we'll talk about that in the next video on relationship management. But the first part, we first want to practice active listening, listen to other people's concerns, tune into their feelings, quiet down the mind chatter, and fully absorb what they have to say. This means when they're communicating with you, you're able to close your mouth, face them, look at them, and listen to what they have to say without playing different thoughts or stories in your head. This means you're not judging them. This means you're not disattached and think about something else. And this also means not trying to contemplate what they're going to say next or what you're going to say next. Okay? Now, the next part of this, to practice tuning into people, we can utilize empathy. Okay? Now, empathy plays a role when we're able to tune into people's body language and their facial expressions. Now, remember what I said earlier. We want to recognize the spectrum of this. This means that we're not completely disattached and we're not using body language, so we don't even recognize that when we're having communication with our spouse or our coworker that, we're turned away and we're not listening to them. Or we're not making verbal cues so they know that we're listening to them and that we're holding space for them. This also means not using terms like at least or but, right? This means, when you recognize that your coworker or one of your friends, they just had a family member that died, you'll be able to listen and empathize with them in their grief without saying, well, at least they had a good life, or, but weren't they successful? This means you're able to quiet down what you have to say, know what not to say, and fully absorb their communication with you. Okay? So with empathy, we also don't want to be on too far on the right side of the spectrum where we're judging other people based off, their body language, thinking that they're not absorbed within the communication based on the facial expressions that they're making or something they might be doing. This means staying in the middle and observing when's the right time to communicate with people and knowing what not to say. This means recognizing that when someone's packing up and leave and you notice, their body language is showing that they're in a rush or they're in a hurry or that they need to get home, you'll be able to read that body language or their facial expressions and recognize this is not the right time to bring up a new conversation or to introduce something new into the dialogue, because that's going to make them irritated, especially if they're not someone who practices verbally communicating themselves. So work with this over time. Practice tuning into people, practice active listening to other people's concerns, their perspectives, their feelings, and also practice empathy, seeing things from other people's perspective and reading their body language and reading their facial expressions in a healthy manner, and stay within the spectrum. Now, if you want to watch the next video, you can click here to watch the video on relationship management. And you haven't seen the last video, you can click here to also watch the last video I did on self-management. So I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed.